I'm not going to sit here and profess that I have nailed this. I certainly haven't. People will jump on Google and they'll look and they'll Google my name or YouTube me and they'll see all these big successes that I've had. But there's been lots of failures as well.
Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. In this show, I will introduce you to ideas, concepts, and mindsets that will open your mind to a new world of well-being and personal life growth. Through eye-opening interviews, we elevate people in the world doing amazing things for humanity and share insights that will shift you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate version of you. Welcome again to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast, and thank you for joining us here again today. Now, recently I've been intrigued to take a deeper look into the way business, companies and corporations run, and I've been inspired to invite various leaders and entrepreneurs to share their insights, their values and their beliefs with us to give us an understanding of how they monitor success. During this episode, I've invited Andrew Morello to the show. He's an award-winning entrepreneur, investor, author, and most of you will most likely remember him as the winner of the first Australian Apprentice with Mark Burris back in 2009. So after spending 10 years working alongside Mark Burris at Yellow Brick Road, Andrew is now currently head of business development at the Entourage, which is Australia's largest training institution for entrepreneurs and business owners, and a founding board member of Project Gen Z, a social enterprise which runs entrepreneur and development programs for disadvantaged children, as well as actively working on many different projects simultaneously. Andrew is passionate about sharing his successes with other entrepreneurs, business owners, and investors to help them also reach their full potential, and has a philanthropic mindset around business. So hello, Andrew. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me, Maritza. Thank you.
Do I call you Andrew? Do I call you Morello?
Just, you know what, Morello, the only one who calls me Andrew calls my mother.
And when you're in trouble?
I can assure you of that, correct? So, yeah, Morello.
Does she say it with an accent?
No, she's lost the accent, but I do know she does say it in a particular way, and I know I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you know, your hairs stand up on your back. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So, how have you been dealing over the pandemic? How's life changed for you at the moment?
Look, you know, and we got started a little bit before we pressed record, but I've actually thoroughly enjoyed COVID. I know that sounds bad or sad, but I think it's been a real opportunity for people to defrag and recalibrate. And I think as human beings and for human nature, I feel like we needed a bit of a reset like this, you know. For those of you that are listening that are in business, you might be pulling your hair out right now saying, you know, it's easy for you to say, rada, rada. And I go, well, look, the good news is that everybody's in the same boat. So I work with hundreds of different businesses around the country and globally through the Entourage. And, you know, the good news is that this is affecting everybody. So it's not just an excuse. It's not an industry specific or a country specific. And the better news is that, you know, majority of the people I work with are Australian based. A good probably 80% of my clientele are Australian based. But, you know, we're so lucky to live in Australia, the land of opportunity, the land of milk and honey. And I was just saying before, I've actually spent the last 2.5 months in the back streets of Moonee Ponds with my mother and father living at home. My brother thought I'd
back at home.
Yeah, he thought I'd last 7 days. I've been here 2.5 months and I've just thoroughly enjoyed after, you know, not living at home since I was 18, 19. You know, I'm 34 now, and just being home with my mum and dad's been great. You know, I've been taking care of them. They're both not well. Mum's got early onset Alzheimer's and dad had a stroke, but the carers that we had coming couldn't come anymore because of COVID. So my sister asked me to come down from Sydney and come and help out. And I was supposed to stay for a couple of weeks, been here 2.5 months, and absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it and given me an opportunity to really reconnect with my roots and especially with my parents.
Absolutely. It really caused us to sort of forcefully pause. And yes. I can imagine you lived such a busy lifestyle prior to this all happening, and you've just had to zone it all in and just stay put in a way.
Yeah. Which is, and it's forced me to innovate and to evolve. So it was interesting, you know, obviously I've spoken all around the world at, hundreds and hundreds of conferences. And, I'm a keynote speaker for a myriad of different industries and from the corporate sector to, entrepreneurialism. And it was funny because I was always known as a bit of the, even though I'm quite young still, I was always known as the, the old school guy, like, guys that are like 50, 60 ringing me for advice. And I was like, why are you ringing me? Like, I'm not the person. They're like, well, you got this old soul about you and all this jazz. And I probably took that and ran with it in a sense that I was a bit of a late adopter or a lagger in the nurture sequence of a consumer. And I was resilient to Zoom and resilient to, to video chat. I was like, no.
Human connection.
I'll just jump on a plane and come and see you. They're like, you're going to jump on a plane for a meeting and come and see us? I'm like, yeah, I'll just jump on a plane and come and see you. So I was on 110, 120 flights plus a year,
Wow.
Qantas back and forward. So for me, that was the way I did business. And so this COVID's forced me to really embrace technology. And now it's funny, like I sit on a Zoom and I'm the guy explaining to someone how to do an emoji or explaining to someone how to turn off their microphone or come off silent or put your little virtual hand up so you can ask a question in a Zoom session.
I love it. Before we went on, you were taking me on a tour of your parents' house. I absolutely loved it. You're just like, you've taken Zoom to another level. You're like, I am showing you around. I'm not sitting still.
Correct. For those of you who obviously can't see what we're doing, I'm actually sitting in my childhood lounge room, and there are baby photos of me up on the wall, and I just showed Maritza my baby photos.
So, and I'm sitting in my daughter's bedroom. So these are the times we are now in.
It's a new world.
Adapting, we're pivoting, we're doing what we can. Hey.
So that's been a real positive. Just embracing that uncertainty of life and really embracing technology and the evolution of life.
Absolutely. Well, I've heard you talk about how you are an emotional leader. You're emotionally intelligent rather than academically intelligent. And I really resonate with that.
That's my easy way of saying that I'm not that smart.
Well, you know what? I relate and resonate with that as well, because I do connect through my heart with people, and I feel as though you do as well. Can you describe yourself to us as a business person? What type of values and what type of beliefs do you have around business that keep you motivated and keep you going?
Great question, actually. Great question. So on that, I'll pre-frame it and set the foundation around the answer to that, around the fact that I am not in a wanky sort of a way, but I'm a student of life. So I've probably spent, somebody who goes and does an MBA or doctorate, might drop a few $100,000 at university, or someone who might even try, my sister studied at Oxford University over in the UK. So, I'm sure that cost her a fortune when she did that. But I've probably spent about $1 million since I was 16, 17, 18 to 34, if not more, at least $1 million on personal and professional development. So I believe I'm still a student, but I learn in a far different way than the traditional forums of education. So I've gone and done Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within, and Date with Destiny, and I always get the platinum package and go and walk the Coles, and I've gone and done, spent 3 days with Deepak Chopra, spent a week in a Buddhist monastery in Chiang Mai, and I've got, as we were mentioning briefly before, shamans and ashrams and things of that nature. So I've spent a lot of money on my personal development. On my professional development, I've gone and gotten a lot of education from, if not Australia, some of the world's best. So John McGrath was my personal mentor growing up, which I'd pay to be mentored by him. Now we're good friends. After 10 years of paying him, I think he just felt like there was a good value exchange considering the stuff that I was doing. He was getting involved in that. But John McGrath, who's one of the best property tycoons in Australia, obviously Mark Burris. I've had the joy and privilege of being able to engage these people, and it's costed me money, but the money is nowhere near the investment's been nowhere near the return that I've gotten on it. One, monetarily, but more importantly, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally as well.
Absolutely. So, there's worse things to spend your money on. Hey.
Yeah. And they've given me the foundations to my core vision, mission, and value. So, my vision and mission have always been based around that Andrew Morello wants to make lots and lots of money to pay other people really, really well to do the things that he doesn't want to do, so he can do more things he loves doing with the people that he loves. I'll repeat that one more time just so it's got the gravitas to it, which is Andrew Morello wants to make lots and lots of money to pay other people really, really well to do the things he doesn't want to do, so he can do more things he loves doing with the people that he loves. So the whole idea of that was that I effectively would then, off the back of that, what I call Morello's 30-second answer at 3 a.m. and understanding that as my sort of vision and mission, was then how do I translate that into values, and then how do I translate that into actually, working that into my life on a realistic and a macro and micro level as well. So those values ended up then becoming, freedom was very high. I saw my father tied to a service station for 47 years. We've still got it on the corner of Cascabar Road and Buckley Street in Moonee Ponds, BP Morello Motors. It was an Amico 47 years ago. It's still there today. My uncle's running it now because my dad's not well. And it's like, that wasn't business for me. Like, my dad was a great businessman, but he taught me what to do and what not to do. And so freedom was a core value. Honesty and transparency. Humility was extremely important, which my father taught me that as well. And then these sort of core principles then became quite prevalent right across my property career and my property business, then into my finance career, my finance business, and then investing into the entourage with Jack DeLosa. And when Jack and I joined forces sort of 10 years ago, it set a good foundation because we were sort of cut from the same cloth, come from different worlds, but cut from the same cloth.
I follow Jack DeLosa and I've read his books, and there's definitely that drive within both of you that's unshakable. You can just see the passion that's within you, and it's really intoxicating. Actually, you want to sort of just get more and more of it. And I remember seeing you for the first time, obviously on our screens on The Apprentice. I think it was 11 years ago now, about 11 years ago.
2009. Yeah,
amazing.
So, I think I won in 2010, so they filmed it in 2009. I started working with Mark in 2010.
So there was never another episode. There was never another series, was there?
There was never another normal one. So I was on the celebrity ones after it as one of the guests on the celebrity one. But the celebrity ones, they rated better. They were good. You know what? They're better for business, and it's sad that we live in that world. But obviously they rate better. And then the celebrities, obviously, we leveraged a lot of that for Yellow Brick Road and had some great successes off the back of it as well. And then we had a bit of a go at Mentored as well, which was good. But it's television for you, Like, I got a lot of friends in the television space, and when I finished The Apprentice, one of my sort of mentors at the time was Eddie Maguire. And I said to him, I've got a chance to do some more television. And he actually sat me down because he's from Broadmeadows. I'm from Moonee Ponds, which is on the same train line. It's a bit more of a Bronxy area, but still, back at Moonee Ponds, 10, 20 years ago was a bit of a rough place still. And he said to me, do you want to be famous or do you want to be successful? And I said, I told him, Andrew Morello wants to make lots and lots of money, pay other people really, really well. I gave him my spiel, and he goes, well, then concentrate on business. He goes, the challenge you've got with, people going down this celebrity path is that, he goes, be famous for business. Because that's the best way to be, because he goes, that's sustainable, it's recession proof. He goes, the problem you got with these people who chase fame as in celebrity status is it's very short lived. And I've got friends, I won't mention names, I don't want to demean them, but I've got friends that put everything into television, put everything into trying to be Insta famous or this famous or that kind of famous, or even sporting. I've got mates that didn't go to uni, that finished high school with me, went and played. The average AFL footballer in the AFL, the average player plays 17 games, the average player. So
Really?
You've got your Matty Lloyds that I went to school with that played 300-400 games for Essendon. You've got the Greg Williamses that played 400 games, and the Jason Dunstalls and all that that we grew up with. I went to school with Dane Swan as well. I went to Coachella with Dane Swan a couple of years ago, right? So it's all good and well, but they're the very small percentage. Like Dane, was smart with his money. He made investments. He invested in businesses, and so we went to school together. He wasn't the smartest guy either, but he was smart with what he did with that opportunity. And he goes, like, the reality is, anyone who's sitting there and going, I'm going to be a footballer, or I'm going to be an Instagram model or something, like, I'm like, it's great. And I'm not telling you not to follow your passion and your dreams, but make sure it's a new concept I've come up with. And my cousin will be happy because we came up with it at like 2 a.m. a few weeks ago when I was at his place, and I'm like, we're talking about spiritualism, and I'm like, it's all about hedging your energy, Anthony. It's all about hedging your energy. And he's like, we need to write that down. It's fantastic. And I realized, he goes, that's what you did. And he helped pull it out of me. And he was like, that's what you do. Like, you put a bit of time and energy into your philanthropic work. You put time and energy into the entourage. You put time and energy into your property business. You put time and energy into people, into certain people. So that way, if something doesn't work out, it's okay, because I haven't put all my eggs in one basket, and I've got something to fall back on and something still to nourish me and make me feel like I can actually build something from. This might have failed, but that's okay. It was just a stepping stone to success.
It's so important, I think, for us to find our why in our purpose and our
Yes.
mission to move forward, because if it is just fame that people are chasing, like you said, it is short-lived, but having that as a why isn't really an achievable and long-lasting destination. So
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head. You won it. You won the Apprentice. You became the finalist, and you actually planted seeds from that winning. You didn't just take off and run on some fame searching escapade, which is obviously caused it to be a long-lasting success ride.
Yeah.
You said earlier that you, and I introduced you with this as well, that you work on simultaneous projects at the same time. So you work on
Yes.
different things at the same time. How do you put the right amount of energy into each of those things to help them flourish at their best level?
You ask great questions. I'm very, very impressed. It's a valid point. I'm not going to sit here and profess that I have nailed this. I certainly haven't. You know what? People will jump on Google and they'll look and they'll Google my name or YouTube me, and they'll see all these big successes that I've had. But there's been lots of failures as well.
Yeah.
I've probably lost $1 million, $2 million over the years in business, in projects and ideas. And it's one of the ones that is still around, but it's not completely done and dusted. But I started a business. I flew over to Hertz over in Uxbridge in the UK and struck a deal to do an idea called Hop Hertz, which was a collaboration between Hertz and us. We were called Hop, and it was basically taking Hertz vehicles and mobilising them through Sydney, running a competitor against Uber. We did an initial test, and it went quite well. We had 8,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers. We did 8,000 rides. We had 146 cars mobilised. So it worked. And then we went but we had to spend $500,000 getting it off the ground, and then of our own money. Then we went to go raise capital, and then just at that point, Ola, DD, and Uber all went crazy in Australia. And so you're fighting against the $30 billion war chest. Or, like DD, Ola had just bought out Uber in India, for like $6 billion, and they were coming to Australia. So it was like, even if we had raised 10, 15, $20 million, it wouldn't have been enough to fight up against it. So we're actually looking now at a collaboration with Ola, interestingly enough. So, you've got to have when you're looking at where are you going to dedicate the time, energy, and effort, it's got to be reverse engineered against what's important to you. So if you're married with children, that should be, or you've got a life partner, that should be your focus. Without a doubt, family should come first. Then obviously off the back of that, I'm not married, I don't have children, so I do focus a lot on my business right now, but I have prioritized my family. Like, I could be in Sydney right now working, but I'm in Melbourne spending time with my family, and I'm very active in that space, and family's always been very important to us. And then off the next probably tier is, I don't tier it by how much money I'm going to make. I tier it by what I enjoy doing as well. So I've got this old adage, and I used to say to Mark Burris often, if it's no longer fun, I'll go home. And one of the challenges that we actually had with financial services, we went through a banking royal commission. We hadn't done anything wrong, but went through a banking royal commission. We went through a franchising royal commission. We went through a tax audit. I went through a personal tax audit, and all of it, we came out clean, and there was no problems. It was just the standard. It was our turn of being as a public listed company and being in those industries. But I was exhausted. I was 32, 33, and I was exhausted. I'd spent the last 2 years, going through, line by line contracts, detail, dispositions, all these sort of stuff that was really not what I enjoyed doing. And so effectively what I did was, I said to Mark, if it's no longer fun, I'm going to go home. And it wasn't as fun. And so I still consult, and I still have a great relationship with Mark and Yellow Brick Road, but it wasn't fun for me anymore. So, you know, you know, someone might be listening to this going, oh, it's easy for you. You're not married. You don't have kids. I totally agree. So, you know, might not have that luxury of being, oh, it's not fun anymore. I'm going to go move on to my next project. But you need to enjoy what you do, because if you don't, what's going to happen is if you are married and you do have a partner or you do have kids, what you're going to do is you're going to take that negative energy, that negative emotion, and it's what's going to do. It's going to manifest into a physiological nature, either internally through illness to you, or worse, it's going to, and I'll use the word, infect your wife, husband, partner, and children. And that would be even worse. Like, I could not imagine, like, my father didn't have an easy ride. Like, you know, immigrant came off the boat from Italy and, you know, went into the service station game. And he was always very stressed and he worked hard, not smart. But, you know, he was positive and, you know, he always told us we could do things. And he set a great foundation for us. He never gave us money, but he set a foundation of go out there, give it a go, be inspired, you know, go and meet people. Oh, you know, I had these crazy ideas. I wanted to start a business when I was 14 running kids nightclubs, and my dad's like, oh, you know, it sounds crazy, but have a crack, you know. And like most dads would have gone, nah, forget about it. I don't want you getting involved in that sort of shit. But my dad was like, all right, if you can do it on your own, go and do it. And so I went to the council, Moonee Valley Council, and a lady named Carol Espinoza, and she awarded me a $10,000 government grant to run, you know, drug and alcohol-free youth events for the Moonee Valley region and beyond. And then I turned that business into a multi-million-dollar business, effectively running sort of, you know, medium to large scale events, you know, throughout Melbourne CBD. So,
look, it really is the key is being passionate and loving what you do, isn't it? Because there's this quote, it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I read it again in Pauline Wynn's book, The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur. It's the master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, he's always doing both, by James A. Michener. Like, it's the most powerful quote. And when you're aligned to the things that you absolutely love to do, that sums up the work that I do these days to a T. I just
Maritza, you need to send that to me. That is me. That is me. That's it. I don't know if I'm working or not, because it is just fun. Like, you know, like, is this work now? Like, I don't know, but like somebody might listen to this and go, well, actually, I've been looking at the Entourage, or I've been looking at Yellow Brick Road, or I've been looking at Morello, and, you know what, I'm going to click on this link, and I'm going to, you know, reach out to him. So you turn your job, business, and career into your lifestyle. And that's what I've tried to do. And I believe I have successfully mastered over the last sort of 10, 15 years of my life.
And it's fun, right? I saw your face light up when I was reading that quote.
I was like, this is great. What is that? Send me that right now.
I will. Post-interview, I will send it to you.
I know.
Absolutely.
That's definitely me. It's beautiful. I'm going to get that typed up and framed and put it up in my office and sit.
Now, you definitely seem to wear your heart on your sleeve. How do you use vulnerability and openness in business? Do you feel like you get a better response from your clients when you're completely open?
Yeah, it's another great question and something I'm very passionate about. So I have a Morello saying, so feel free to quote it somewhere else, or a Morello quote. I say, and I came up with it in a weird way, you know, as I've got that weirdness, but I said, if you're prepared to show blood, people will bleed with you. So I had this theory a number of years back when I was doing some advisory work for a particular financial services company in their sales division and their sort of business development division. And we just weren't getting breakthroughs. Like, these guys were, you know, the team was majority male. There was too much masculine energy there. You know, they couldn't engage in their feminine energy at all as males. The women had been infected by the masculine energy, and they had become so, you know, cold, and it was all about the numbers. So they got me in there for an initial sort of 2 days. And this is with a well-known brand. I won't mention the name, obviously, but a well-known brand. And it was just a massive cultural issue where what they had done is they, you know, created such a culture of, you know, it's all about making money, and it's all about closing the deal, and it's all about, you know, taking market share. And I said to them, like, how's this working out for you? And they're like, yeah, we've had year-on-year growth. This is what's happened and so forth. And I'm like, great. But I'm like, is this the kind of business that you want to have? Like, is this the kind of, you know, legacy that you want to leave? And, you know, from the leader's point of view, interestingly enough, like, head leader, he sat in half a dozen of the sort of 12 sessions that I did with him. He sat in probably half a dozen of them, and he totally agreed. He goes, we need to break down those walls. And we, over a sort of a 12, 18 month period of working with this company, we ended up, redefining their sort of vision, mission of those for their department. I didn't do it for the company's a multinational. So obviously I didn't have the power to, okay, we're scrapping the way things have been done right across the country and globally. So I had a chance to work with this particular group, with particular segmentation within their company. And over a 12, 18 month period of working with them, we really broke down what were the vision, mission, and values, getting in touch with the masculine, feminine, masculine, and feminine energies, and understanding how they work in with the way you relate to individuals, and then building how to build rapport and show that vulnerability. So I do it on a daily basis. Most people know that my mum and dad aren't well. Most people know, if I'm in a relationship, if I'm not, or if things aren't going too well, I'm always happy to show that. And I have a little formula, not a scripted dialogue, but a bit of a formula. I call it the Ford formula. So F is for family, O is for occupation, R is for recreation, and D is for dreams. And I feel if you can have that kind of conversation with people and get to a point where you're speaking to them about their dreams or their goals or whatever it might be, you don't need to be Andrew Morello. Some people, come to my sessions or, see me present and they're like, oh, you're amazing. I wish I could do that. And I'm like, well, you don't need to. Why don't you think you can do it? They're like, I don't have the confidence you have. I don't have the charisma you have. Like, I'm not saying this arrogantly, but these are the words that they say to me. And I say to them, but it's okay. You do it your way. So like, if you're a single mum with 2 kids and your job is to go and you've started this little business and you've got to go and meet, 20 new people a week, go in and tell them that story. I'm not telling you to give them a sob story, but there's nothing wrong. You should be proud that you're a single mother with 2 kids. There's an ex-partner of mine, a life partner, who I'm still good friends with, and she's a single mum with 2 kids. The man's not around. He was not a good person to her. He turned her life into an absolute misery, and she is successful in her job now. She's got a leadership role within her company. She's a great role model for her children. She's got herself her own place. And I tell her all the time when we speak, I go, you should be so proud of yourself. But she still has that negative fear in her subconscious saying, oh, I haven't done anything. I'm like, you've done so much. Like, I feel like she should be on stage telling her story. And she doesn't want to do that because she's like, I'm not like you. I can't do that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean like me? You would just get up, tell your story, and that would be enough motivation and inspiration for so many people that have gone through trials and tribulations to get up, get out there, and actually make a change and break the cycle. So show your vulnerability.
Yeah, you definitely connect to people on a much deeper level when you're more open with them. And that's probably why you've got these long-lasting business relationships. You could probably call 10 people in 5 minutes and get an answer that you want through business, because you've fostered these great relationships throughout your career and your career life cycle.
Do you know where I actually learned it, Marita? I actually learned it at my dad's service station. 8 years old, pumping petrol, hearing, my dad would make a joke of it over the years, but he'd go like, I was people's mechanics for 47 years, but I was their psychologist, I was their therapist. Yeah. Like, my dad would make a joke that, at times you get husbands and wives that were customers, and you'd have husbands telling my dad how they're cheating on their wives, and you'd have wives telling my dad how they're cheating on their husbands.
Oh,
and my dad's like, I really don't want to know this information. But it was amazing that my father had built this amazing, and he's not, a loud guy and quite overt, but he had this amazing ability for people to open up to him for good reasons and bad reasons. But it was, it was a beautiful thing. Like, it's a bit of a running joke that people, when they see my dad, they go, I remember when I used to come to the survey, my dad's like, yeah. They're like, mate, it could never be for 10 minutes. I get stuck talking for 45 minutes with your father. And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of how it works.
And they're the most loyal customers, and they're not going anywhere else ever.
Correct. And some of them would move outside of the area, and they would drive 10, 15, 20 minutes to come get petrol. And I would say to them, didn't you move to like Tullamarine, or didn't you move to like Taylor's Lakes? Go build yourself some 65 square, ethnic mansion out in Taylor's Lakes. And you're still getting your petrol from Mooney Ponds. I'm like, do you realize you're using a quarter of a tank just to get here to get your petrol? They're like, yeah, but I get to see your dad. And I was like, all right, fair enough. So yeah, I was very, very good. I got to really be at the cover. Actually, interesting story. Mark Burris on The Apprentice, if anyone's seen the episode, they used to be on YouTube. They've been taken down. Channel 9 took them down. YouTube took them down because Channel 9 owned the rights. They complained about it, which was a bit of a pity. But there was a beautiful line that Mark said. And when it got to the final three of us in like the second last episode, we went for dinner at Aria, and they filmed us at dinner with Aria at Aria. It was all real. Like, you know, like we had the dinner with Mark for 2-3 hours. It wasn't like he just rocked up and did the filming and left. We had proper dinner, you know, degustation, wine, the whole lot. And then at the end of it, he said, tomorrow you got to come into the boardroom. You got to explain why you should be the person who should stay in, because I'm going to, you know, one of you is going to be fired. I said, all right, no worries. So I was against the girl who had an MBA and a guy who had a doctorate at the end. So like, you know, they did their spiel. He did his spiel. She did her spiel. And then I got up and I said, look, I don't have an MBA in business. I don't have a doctorate. I don't even have a degree. I don't even have like a certificate for in anything, right? I don't have anything. I said, but one thing I've got is that I do business a particular way and I interact with people a particular way, and I think that will add a lot of value to your organization, considering it's a large financial service organization. I said, I think this is what people actually need, you know, to get back to, you know, human connection. And Mark turned around, he said this line, he goes, you've got a degree. And I'm like, no, I don't. He goes, you have got a doctorate. I'm like, no, I don't. He said, you've got an MBA. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, from the back streets of Moonee Ponds. And I just had this tear in my eye, and I was like, my dad would be freaking proud right now that Moonee Ponds is a good mention. But he was right. He goes, you know, the things I learned at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 9 months old, pumping petrol at my dad's service station for $5 a day, I then implemented into my business at 14, 15, running youth events that I then implemented in my business in real estate when I turned 18, 19, 20, 21 and beyond, opening real estate offices with my brother. Then I implemented it in the Yellow Brick Road business, implemented in the Entourage business, and now it's become part of my nature, and it's become part of anything I sit on the board for, and it's a bit of a non-negotiable for me. So like if somebody's like, I want to get you involved in this project or want you to invest, I've just invested into a new company called Flav. It's Australia's first plant-based beef burger innovation company. So we're going to basically go up against Beyond Beef in America. We're going to develop our own plant-based beef burger. And then we're opening a chain of restaurants called Flavs. They're going to be burgers and bowls. And then we've also got Flav Runner, if anyone wants to check it out. Flav Runner, which is home delivery in Sydney Metropolitan right now. I'll be expanding nationally. So I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian. I've been vegetarian for the last month. I've tried it out, but I'm not a vegan. So like I still like my cheese and everything like that. And I'm not doing it for any other reason other than I just was interested to know more about it, considering I'd made this financial investment. But when I sat down with the CEO and founder, Stuart Cook, you know, he was the ex-global CEO of Zambrera, the Mexican food chain. When I sat with him and he gave me the pitch deck and said, I want you to invest, and both myself and my cousin Anthony Morello, my cousin Anthony Morello, who runs a number of venues in Melbourne, we both invested. And when we sat down with him, I went through it and I said to him, you know, obviously I really wanted to know, where is the human side to this? Like, what is the human effect that we're going to provide? And that was something he was very passionate about. And that was probably the final reason why I put my money. You know, like it's a haymaker, and then COVID's happened, which we've still been, you know, getting runs on the board. But it was the fact that I was investing in the people and what we were going to do for other people. That was more important to me than how much money necessarily I was going to make straight off the bat.
There's that emotional intelligence again, hey? Comes back to that always.
Yeah, and it's something I'm always learning as well. Like I'm always challenging myself to be better and to know more about who Andrew Morello is and what my contribution is and what I can do to give back. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here with hubris and say you can never clock your emotional intelligence. I think it's something that you need to constantly be working on. And then I think if you can, you know, get better and better at it, you've got more of a chance of motivating and inspiring other people to go down that path.
Let's talk about how you give back and impact through business, because I find that quite intriguing, and I've seen that more and more businesses these days are creating social enterprise as part of their business structure. I know you work on the founding board of Project Gen Z, and they're doing amazing things. We've had Liz on the show, Liz Volpe on the show, who's one of my biggest mentors. She's an incredible little go-getter. She's amazing.
Liz rang me one night at 11 o'clock at night. She goes, I got this crazy idea. I want to take 20 entrepreneurs from all around the world and go run workshops for, you know, back then they were called orphanages. Now we just call it Sunrise Village Cambodia, which is, we have outreach programs trying to do prevention rather than cure. And a lot of the children are rescued from child prostitution, begging circles. She goes, I want to go teach them entrepreneurialism, give them a hand up, not a handout. We want to raise money, take these 20 entrepreneurs every year, and then go run programs in the the schools and the facilities and effectively the orphanages for the sake of calling it something, but basically the places that the kids get to live in. She goes, I want to go do that, and I'm like, let's do it. She goes, that's why I rang you, because she goes, I know it's a crazy enough idea. Everyone else would start to pick holes in it, but you're just like, yeah, let's do it. And so we've been doing it for 6 years now, 6 years. And we're probably one of the biggest donors financially, definitely the biggest donors in our time, so our energy and our presence to Sunrise Village, Cambodia, with Geraldine Cox, Order of Australian Medal winner. She's been there 27 years. We'd be the biggest donor of time and energy, and certainly one of the largest financially. We've literally had entrepreneurs come from all over the world. We just had Sarah Regal-Huth from Colorado join us. We went and got matching tattoos while we're over there. We've got we've had people from the UK. We just had a contingency come out from Spain and America and Mexico, and we've got come from other parts of Asia and Southeast Asia, and then a lot of them coming from all over Australia. So
it's creating a massive impact.
I recommend checking it out. Project Gen Z. 2 components. One, obviously, the philanthropic work we do with the kids over in Cambodia, and also there are programs running nationally in Australia that will look to expand right across Australia through great facilitators like Maritza and Co.
Oh, perfect. Well, I can see why you're an amazing founding board member. You speak so beautifully about it. And it is such an incredible organisation that you have all put together. Now, just on the final question, because I know you've hinted at, a life of spirituality and the learning that you've done and the personal development that you've done over this time. How do you merge spirituality and business, or do they sit quite separately in your life?
They don't sit separately in my life, but I don't have an issue. Like, there is no right or wrong with how you do this. So I think what happens is people read a book or they listen to a podcast and they go, oh, Morello seems to have merged it all into one. Or, John Smith he goes off to his ashram, or he goes and sits in ceremony with doing ayahuasca with his shaman, and then he comes back and he doesn't talk about it to anyone. There's no answer about how you should integrate. It's called integration, effectively. So obviously as I mentioned before, I do go and sit in ceremony with a particular shaman who spends a lot of time in Peru and South America and Costa Rica and Brazil and the Amazon and so forth. And then she spends a lot of time in Australia, up in Byron and Blue Mountains, and also down in Melbourne as well, and up in Mornington Peninsula. And what I find is that working with her, so I would argue I still believe in God. I would argue I still have a belief in my religion, that I grew up Catholic and growing up, but I'm probably not religious anymore. I'm more spiritual now. So I'm more open-minded to different concepts and understanding that I take nourishment in different ways, and everybody gets nourished in different ways, mentally, emotionally, physically, and last but not least spiritually. And the issue we've got in Australia is when people talk about spiritualism, they think religion very quickly, and it's heartbreaking because I think so many people have got so much to give and so much to receive. There's a very important part of that. So I'll re-say that so much to give, but also so much to receive. As human beings, and especially, in the entrepreneurial or business space, people are quite selfless. Like, they put their family, their energy, their health, their money, everything before looking after themselves. And the importance of actually dedicating time, energy, and effort to yourself and learning to receive. I had to learn how to do it. I don't know where it came from. Probably, watching my mother and father that were very selfless to a point where they probably could have been misconstrued as being a martyr. Sometimes, like, my dad would take on all the stress and all the drama of everybody. And I'd be like, let us help you. No, I've got it under control. Because he thought I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm the provider. Grew up with that, ethnic mentality that's what the way that life was. And so I think probably the core principles I'll give people in integrating your spiritualism into your professional, business, and personal life is, number one, is embracing the uncertainty of life. So, the spiritualism, taking it from that and going, okay, I'm letting go of the outcome. So the number two would be letting go of the outcome and embracing embracing the uncertainty of life. Because when you go and sit in ceremony and you do plant medicines, or you might be doing just more holistic and meditation and things of that nature, the reality and something they teach you and to really take on board as a bit of a mantra is the fact that this too will end. So obviously sometimes when people do plant medicines, if they've gone on that journey at all, it's not a fun experience. Like the whole reason why they've used it for 4,000 years to heal ailments and, mental blockages. And if anyone watches Billions, you'll have seen in the most recent series on episode 1, Axe goes up to Canada and sits with a shaman in a teepee for 3 days and does ayahuasca. Now they're even looking to use ayahuasca as medicinal ayahuasca use in America. Now they've got trials that are happening, and so when you go and sit and do these things, they're not fun experiences. I think a lot of human beings misconstrue and they go, oh yeah, you're going to sit there, you're going to do yoga, meditation, journaling, spirit, you got spirit helpers, you got your shaman. It's all going to be fun. And, I'm going to come out of it rejuvenated. The reality is you set your intentions, you go and do you sit with, the mother plant or the grandfather plant, whatever it might be, and it's not necessarily fun. You are facing your demons a lot of the time. But the whole idea of it is to do the work there under a guided meditation with the shaman. And then so that way when you leave, you can then go back into your everyday life and you take that uncertainty that you went through in your spiritual development, you apply it to business, you apply it to the way you deal with your children, you apply it to your 13-year-old teenage daughter whose hormones are going everywhere, and the mum's ringing me going, what should I do? I don't know what to do with this. She's been missing for 3 days. And I'm like, well, I'm not a father, so I'm probably not the best person, but look, what I recommend is why don't you hold space for her? And the reason why I know about holding space now is because of the spiritual work that I've done. So I'm able to give them guidance on that scenario only because I've been around enough of my go and doing the work with my spiritualism that I can apply that back. So embracing the uncertainty of life, letting go of the outcome, and practicing present moment awareness. They're probably the three tiers and 3 elements of taking that spiritualism, embracing it into your everyday life, and then integrating it and finding ways to integrate, whether that's, sitting down as a family and actually having an open, transparent discussion. If it's, sitting with a psychologist or a counselor or a shaman or whatever it might be, but wearing your heart on your sleeve and being prepared to show your vulnerability, do the work, and then you'll be able to get the better results in your everyday life.
Wearing your heart on your sleeve is definitely what you do, Morello. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. I just love the way that you communicate. Keep doing what you're doing and shining your light onto the world. I'm Maritza Barone. Thank you for listening to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and if something really profound came up for you that you want to share, let's talk about it. You can find me on Instagram at Things You Can't Unhear or on my personal page at Maritza_Barone. And if someone you know will benefit from something that was said in this show, make sure you share it with them too. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and keep up to date with what's next. And if you can spare a few seconds, please rate and review the show on iTunes, just so other people can find us more easily and quickly. And as always, my friends, be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind.